The voices of women silenced by maternal mortality speak extraordinarily eloquently in these images. The Washington Post was very proud to nominate this compelling piece of photojournalism for the Sidney Hillman Award, and ladies and gentlemen, we agree. Carol, would you please approach the stage?
Thank you. Thank you so much for this honor. I'm humbled to be in such amazing company, both here tonight and from the past winners that we saw earlier. One of the last things that Jamela Sacco and Adama Sano saw was a camera recording their final moments as the light left their eyes. With this realization comes a profound responsibility to tell their stories and shed light on a significant issue that often exists in the shadows of other global health concerns. This report was an assignment by my editor, Michael Ducil, as part of a series by Post foreign correspondent Kevin Sullivan. It covers the conditions at the rural maternity clinic, where, as was said before, there are only 2 doctors. One was trained as an ophthalmologist, and they serve a population of 300,000, and at Freetown's sprawling Princess Christian Maternity Hospital. The portrait emerges of the desperation that families deal with the loss of the young mother or child, or many times both. Infant mortality rates are alarming as well. Unfettered access at the hospitals provided a glimpse into the dire situation. The medical director's staff and patients we interviewed were aware of the enormity of the problems they face and had the courage to open their doors for this story. With grace, families embraced the strangers from America during their time of personal tragedy. We slept on insect-infested mattresses and smelled the stench of urine and death that staff must confront every day. The nurses of Ward 2 were elated to use the mosquito spray we brought for a brief reprieve from incessant bites. We experienced discomfort for a few weeks, but residents there can't get on a plane to comfort. They're caught in a web of distress and can't turn the page when they don't like the headlines. Yes, emergency C-sections are delayed. Families run out to buy latex gloves or donate their own blood. Electricity is sporadic at best, and staff rely on flashlights and cell phones to light their work. Women take that final look at life in the face of their newborns, and the tiny stillborns wrapped in their mother's clothes await burial on a grimy countertop in plain view of women in labor nearby. Vultures sit atop wards as relatives wash blood-stained clothes, and the decaying hallways reverberate with those moans of mourning, and heartache permeates the walls. Jamela was instructed to have an elective C-section, but was afraid and waited too long. She arrived with a damaged cervix and breached fetus. She saw her newborn for a brief moment in the surgical theater, then began to hemorrhage. Nurses piled stools under a bed for elevation, improvising for a common bed crank, taken for granted as standard equipment in most places. Valiant efforts by staff and 11 pints of blood from relatives failed, and she literally bled to death, leaving behind 4 other children. Fatmata Jallo, 18 years old, died at dawn with a piece of paper saying "Rest in peace" taped to her shroud. Her sister fainted on the mud of the rainy day that was her last. As 2 other women died in the ward, Isha Karoma waited for drugs to induce labor of the stillborn in her womb. "I'm so worried," she said with tears streaming down her cheeks. "People keep coming in and they take them out dead." The eyes of Adama's mother, Safi, were deep pools of despair as she held the hand of her dying child. The baby was alive when they rushed her to the hospital, but perished along with the mother without ever taking a first breath. Adama was having convulsions from preeclampsia that worsened at a clinic the previous evening. And as so often occurs there was no transportation in the night to the hospital of last resort. A simple taxi ride and the cash to pay for it sometimes determines the fate of loved ones. Adama's breathing became labored as fluid pulled in her lungs, and that sound still rattles in my ears, and her young, tortured face appears in my dreams. Her stepfather prayed for her to come alive, but as he spoke to me moments later, she softly slipped away, with no one noticing her life had ended. On Safi's face, a fleeting expression of sheer disbelief and agony appeared with such intensity, it took my breath away. I hesitated picking up the camera, and now I can't get it out of my mind. Adama left behind 2 little girls. Her family experienced the issue from both sides, with the loss of their own child, and also on a daily basis at the small clinic they administer, which suffers the same chronic deprivations. In the midst of personal sorrow, concern for their patients and a dignified plea for assistance was their mission. They have no ambulance, no power supply, no critical medical equipment. What they grasp onto fervently is hope. As her beloved daughter's body was taken away to rest beneath those majestic cottonwood trees, Adama's mother whispered, with a quiet and profound sorrow, "Oh, my darling, goodbye." Working for 28 years as a photojournalist, I'm still humbled by the privilege bestowed on us to document these most intimate moments. It's said when you take a picture, you take a piece of the soul, but also you leave behind part of yours. Bits of my soul are scattered all over the earth, and indeed, it's what makes me whole. The plight of Sierra Leone and all its motherless children will remain in my heart, and I hope in yours. And from the eternal stillness, the voices of women silenced by maternal mortality speak to us with a poignant eloquence and challenge all of humanity to listen. And on a brief personal note, I'd like to honor some folks in the audience tonight who've assisted some of Sierra Leone's youngest war victims, a story I did a few years ago that came to the U.S. for prosthetics. Rebels there used amputation as a tool of terror. Andy and Nancy Passari, who were with Staten Island Hospital, embraced the group who survived unthinkable brutality. For years, they were like their auntie and uncle. They don't win awards, but they walk the walk with amazing grace. And they're unsung heroes who really make a difference. What began as a story for me ended as family with Andy and Nancy, and in one of my life's greatest honors, I'm now godmother to one of those girls from Sierra Leone. And I thank you so much.